Hi, my little friends. I hope that you are doing well. It is going well with Auntie today, and I hope that you enjoyed the last story that we did. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of David and Goliath. And David went to fight against a big giant. David was the son of Jesse. He was an Israelite of the tribe of Judah. And Jesse had 8 sons, and the youngest was David. Now at that time, the Philistines, who was a nation who hated Israel, came to make war with Israel. A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. He was as big as a giant and very tall. He had a bronze helmet on his head, and he wore a coat of scale armor of bronze. He had a big spear that weighed very much. Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your slaves. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our slaves and serve us." Then the Philistines said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites, they were terrified. They were very afraid. Now Jesse's 3 oldest sons had followed Saul to the war. For 40 days Goliath came forward every morning and evening and took his stand. Now Jesse said to his son David, "Take this bucket of roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread to your brothers and hurry up to their camp. Take along these 10 cheeses to the commander of their unit. See how your brothers are and bring back some news from them." David left his things with the keeper of supplies, ran to the battle lines, and asked his brothers how they were. As he was talking to them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from his lines and shouted his usual defiance, and David heard it. Whenever the Israelites saw the man, they all fled from him in great fear. Now the Israelites had been saying, "Do you see how this man keeps coming out? He comes out to defy Israel. The king will give great wealth to the man who kills him. He will also give him his daughter in marriage, and his family will not have to pay taxes." David asked the men standing near him, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" They repeated to him what they had been saying and told him, "This is what will be done for the man who kills him." When Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him speaking with the men, he burned with anger and asked him, "Why have you come down here? And with whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You came down only to watch the battle." "Now what have I done?" said David. "Can't I even speak?" He then turned away to someone else and brought up the same matter, and the men answered him as before. What David said was overheard and reported to Saul, and Saul sent for him. David said to Saul, "Let no one be afraid because of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul replied, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior since he was young." But David said to Saul, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I took it by its hair, struck it and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. Saul said to David, Go, and the Lord be with you. Then Saul dressed David in his own war clothes. He put a coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet on his head. David put on his sword over the tunic and tried walking around, because he was not used to them. I cannot go in these, he said to Saul, because I am not used to them. So he took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand. He chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag, and with his sling in his hand he went to the Philistine. Meanwhile, the Philistine with his shield bearer in front of him kept coming closer to David. He looked David over and saw that he was little more than a boy, glowing with health and handsome, and he despised him. He said to David, Am I a dog that you came at me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Come here, he said, and I will give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals. David said to the Philistine, You come against me with a sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands. As Goliath moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly to the battle line to meet him. Reaching into his bag and taking out a stone, he slung it and struck the Philistine on the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. David ran and stood over him. He took hold of the Philistine's sword and drew it from the sheath. After he killed him, he cut off his head with the sword. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. Then the men of Israel and Judah ran forward with a shout and pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Ekron. Their dead were strewn all along the road. When the Israelites returned from chasing the Philistines, they plundered their camp. David took the Philistine's head and brought it to Jerusalem. As soon as David returned from killing the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul, with David still holding the Philistine's head. Whose son are you, young man? Saul asked him. David said, I am the son of your servant Jesse of Bethlehem. Now, dear little friends, that is how David killed the giant Goliath. We can learn 2 lessons from David here, and the first is this. David obeyed his father Jesse when he gave him chores to do. He was obedient to his parents. He tended his father's sheep. The second lesson that we can learn, David was not a lazy boy. He was working, looking after his father's sheep. My little friends, you should also listen to your parents when they give you chores to do. Do not always play for the whole day. When you come home from school, you do your homework and you do your chores, and after that you go and play with your friends. The third lesson we can learn from David is that David trusted in God. My little friends, David did not trust in himself when he went to kill the giant Goliath, but he trusted in God, and God made him win over the Philistine. My friends, my little dear friends, I hope that you enjoyed this story and you will follow David's example of being a good child. And remember, Auntie loves you, but Jesus Christ loves you so much more. And you must stay safe until next time. Bye.